It helps if you have your mic there. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our show. Welcome back to the channel. Hopefully you had a great Monday and a great weekend. We had a good weekend. It rained a little bit, but we were happy for the cooler weather. So tonight, we are kicking off something new. Today, we're diving into the art of finding balance in life. We will explore how to shift from living a life on the edge to finding harmony at the center. We'll look at how to balance our occupational, familial, social, leisure pursuit for a truly harmonious existence. It's going to be an enlightening journey, so stick around. We've talked about so much, and this right here is going to kick us off. So I'm happy that you're here. If you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health, take charge of your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level, creating the life you've always wanted. If you're new to me as well, go ahead and put new in the comments, because I'd love to give you a hand clap and a shout out with some music. To let you know that we are happy that you are here in this space, joining this family, joining this group, joining this community. If you have questions, go ahead and put those in the comments as well. Put a Q and a colon in front of it so that I'll know that that's something we need to hop onto. Right now, I want you to do something for me. I want you to go ahead and let your family, let your friends, let your circle know that we have started and we are about to jump in. We're about to jump in, y'all. If you've not subscribed already, go ahead and do that. Give us a thumbs up for this video. And of course, go back and look at, let's pull up there, go back and look at some of the other things that we've done. We have actually just finished a couple of series, and I'm going to pull that up here. If you look at our series that we did on diabetes, right? So mastering diabetes, essential knowledge for beginners. That is an amazing group of videos that we did that helps walk you through diabetes. Make sure you get in there and make sure you watch those. We want to also point you to reinventing yourself, designing a new you. That's a series that we did last summer that I think is amazing if you've not already gone through and watched those. And then the art of letting go, which we did just about a month and a half ago, and so many other things that we have on the YouTube channel that I want to make sure that you get back out there and get and pay attention to, and let you know that they are there, y'all. I mean, lots of good information, and we'll come back and we'll talk about some of those as we get towards the end of the show to let you know about some of the things that are going on. So once again, if you've not done so, go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe. Let us know that you're out there. And always, if you are in the community, if you're out there, if you're in social media, if you see me on Instagram or TikTok, in fact, let me go ahead and pop those up right now, so that we know, so that you know that you can get out there and you can, let's see, which one is it? There we go. Okay, you should see all of our social media platforms out there: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, of course, here on YouTube. Even on LinkedIn, and we have a Twitch account, which we go to when we do some of our special shows. So make sure you go ahead. If you see us out there, I love to engage with you. If you got questions, if you have comments, let us know, and we will be sure to get back with you. Okay. All right. So tonight we're talking about balance. We're talking about balance, and this is what we're dealing with right now. Balance. And the question is, why balance? What does balance mean? Why are we even having a conversation about balance, right? So we said finding balance, living life from the center. Well, you know, when I was going through medical school, and I have to say that a lot of the things that I have learned, a lot of the concepts that I use, my medical training, the time that I spent in medical school and the years surrounding it are perfect examples of some of the things that I've learned in my life, some of the things that I teach some of the things I share with you, and then some of the things I am incorporating in my life. Now, let me say this. It took me a long time looking back at some of the things that happened to me. And it took me stepping on this side of those events for me to look back and begin learning some of the things I'm teaching and some of the things I'm incorporating in my life, because the time was, it was painful, y'all. It was painful for me. So this idea of balance, let me kind of talk to you a little bit about medical school and the time surrounding it. And so medical training already is a very time-consuming, all-inclusive, all-encompassing time in a person's life. So when we're going through training, when we're doing medical training, when we're in medical school, or even for some people as they're preparing to get to medical school, the things that they have to do, because a lot of us actually went back to school to learn and to get into medical school, right? So for instance, my background was in math and computer science and theology. So when I decided to go to medical school, I had to go back and, take the classes, organic chemistry and physics and so forth. But at any rate, so in medical school, right? So the studying, right? So lots of time spent in the halls, if you will, in the rooms. When I was training, we were actually physically there a lot of the times. Now, there are some times where you can get, the coursework online, and you can spend some time studying rather than sitting physically in a class. And so some people learn differently. I had to be in class. I had to listen. I had to learn. I had to draw. I had to circle, right? So that's how my brain works. So I'm a hands-on kind of example kind of guy. That's my learning style. But at any rate, during medical school, during residency, there was not a lot of time to do other things. And so for most of us that are going through medical training, life was not balanced. It was lopsided, right? And so for many people, and I've always given the example that while I was in medical school, my thought was when this was over, then life was going to begin. When this was over, then I would start living. When this was over, then I could pay attention to other things. And there are many of you that are out there right now, and you have the same idea. Whether you are in the process of starting a family or getting some training, getting a degree, you're graduating, right? You are starting a new job. You're learning how to invest. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, you may be a little lopsided or very lopsided in what you're doing, right? But the idea of living in balance, this idea of living in balance, first we've got to understand what it means to be on the edge. What does it mean to be on the edge? And being on the edge means that we are highly driven, right? So most people who are living on the edge, they're highly driven, or circumstances have pushed us to the point where we're just slightly off balance, right? You ever have that feeling? You wake up in the morning and nothing has happened yet, but you already feel like you're off balance, right? There's something that you didn't catch up with, something you've got to do, something you've got to move on to, right? And living on the edge sometimes causes us to ignore family, right? Living on the edge, sometimes ignore family, ignore our health, and ignore the other things that are going on, other things that make life. So we're not spending time kind of dealing with all of the things that causes us to be rounded. And we'll come back and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So living on the center, right, is an example of where things are flowing, where we're giving the time that different aspects of our lives need. So we're spending some time with the family. We're spending some time with our hobbies. We're dealing with our health. We have some personal things that we're working on, right? We have friendships that we're building. Now, some of you are listening to me right now and you're thinking, you're like, well, man, my life does not allow me to do that. I don't have space. I don't have time to go into all of those things, right? So I am just dealing, I'm just going day to day. I'm living, I'm waking up, I'm getting through the day, and I'm living on edge, right? So that's living on edge. That's what it is, right? And so living on edge, the problem with it is that while it sometimes gets us through, a lot of times gets us through, when we then begin taking a look at other things, we find that, oh my goodness, my health has suffered, my relationships have broken, and I am distant from the people that are the ones that are supposed to be the closest to me. Right. And also we lack personal growth because we've put all of our eggs into this one basket. Now, this is not to tell people that, hey, there aren't times in our lives when, you know, you go through, you got your head down, right? And you're just plowing through. But what I want to offer is that we should find spaces where we can be balanced, Okay. All right. So all the things that I mentioned before. So whether it's starting a new career, right? We're going through training, whether it's dealing with family issues, social issues, leisure issues. So all of those things make up our lives. And back in the series that I talked about that we did, let me go ahead and pull that up again, this series. And I want you to go back and take a look at it. In the series, did not mean to do that, but that's okay. In the series that is entitled, I want to get rid of that. Okay, there we go. Get rid of that one. All right. So in this series, talking about reinventing yourself, designing a new you. That second one there, a guide to changing your life with the wheel of life. This guy right here is a perfect way of beginning looking at the things in your life and kind of pinpointing places where you may need to make changes. What are your goals? What are the things that you want for your life? What are the things you want for your family? What do you define as success? And the Wheel of Life is a perfect example of a tool that you can use to begin pinpointing those things and then go back. Okay, now that I have a list of the things that I want to change and the areas that I'm interested in, what do I do with it now? Okay, so that's this example of the Wheel of Life. And if I can make that a little bigger, okay, and you'll see some things there, right? So that's the Wheel of Life. So all of these things. So the Wheel of Life, really, if you kind of think of it, that idea of a wheel, life works when the wheel is balanced. You can think of a tire. Right, think of a tire that's rolling. A lot of people have found out that during COVID they were able. There we go. So think of that wheel as that wheel is moving. That tire is moving. If the tire is balanced, then the vehicle goes well and it's running, and there are no bumps or humps. But if that tire is damaged and a part of it doesn't really it's not symmetrical, then you got kind of this, and you can imagine kind of driving a car or a truck or something where the tire is not balanced. Okay, and you may have driven a car like that. But that's the idea behind finding harmony with all the things that are in our lives. If we are finding balance in all of them, then we move through life in a relatively smooth manner. Okay. So the pitfalls of not doing that is that things, as I mentioned, kind of go by the wayside, and we find out later that there are parts of our lives that are damaged because we didn't take the time to address some of those things. Okay. So that's the idea. That's the idea behind the living life from the center. The idea of living life from the center. So what does that mean, and how do we do that? How do we go about in our lives, looking at, we just talked about how we look at it, but what do we do? What are some practical steps that we do? Okay. And so we're going to spend the rest of the time kind of talking through this. Now, as I mentioned before, it doesn't really matter. It really doesn't matter what part of your life you're looking at. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about health, or you're talking about finances, or you're talking about relationships, or you're talking about career transitions, or you're talking about, building a product or selling a product or creating a product or having a conversation. Anytime we're talking about progress, anytime we're talking about improving, anytime we're talking about making changes in ourselves, then you will find that there are some themes that continue to emerge. So that's the idea behind what we talk about here on the channel. You know, like you hear me saying, I'm going to say it again, right? I'm Dr. Dwayne Wood. The E, that's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology, health. Here on the channel, we educate, we empower, and we encourage you to take charge of your health, your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level, creating the life you've always wanted. That's the theme. That's the theme. And everything that you hear me talk about is with the idea that we are creating our life. We are creating our destiny, right? We have to put some skin in the game. We have to have some skin in the game, as they say. Okay. So as we're talking about some of these things, you'll find that there are some themes that can kind of run through there. And so let's hop over, right? So balance, we're talking about balance, and some practical steps now. How do we go about living life from the center, living life in balance? So number one, we've got to understand mindfulness. And there's that word, mindfulness. Mindfulness is this idea that you are present, that you are present in your life, that you are aware of yourself, that you are in tune with how you think, how you feel, that you have some working knowledge of why you do certain things. Now, I want you to listen to all the things that I'm talking about that are in and a part of mindfulness. So in order to be mindful, then you've got to have some mechanism by which you are on a continual basis trying to understand you and how you interact with the world. That's mindfulness. Mindfulness requires that you take time to build yourself up. Mindfulness requires that you are practicing self-care. Mindfulness requires that you have a routine that you use to get yourself centered. Right? So I'm not going through all of those things. Each of those, by the way, can be shows on themselves, by themselves. We can, all the things I've just described, we can go through and we can create a show that just deals with that. So living life from the center, being balanced, number one, requires that you understand mindfulness. Number two, it requires that you set boundaries. Boundaries. Wow. You know, a lot of people think that boundaries are, or is a bad word, or boundary is a bad word, and boundaries are bad. So what does that mean? So boundaries has a connotation, and I'm just going to kind of talk about what we think about boundaries for a minute, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what I'm talking about. So boundaries are limits that we place, whether within a space, a behavior, a mindset, an interaction. So boundaries are those limits that we set around things. For example, a fence around a yard is a boundary. So what does that mean? The boundary means that this right here is mine. This is my space. Right? So that's what a boundary in the terms of a fence can mean. That this is my space. It delineates where my yard is. Boundaries in that same sense keeps people out of your space. Boundaries in that sense keeps you in your space. And boundaries causes or decreases the chances of conflict. Because if your neighbor wants to plant a tree and they come outside, they see the fence and they say, well, I can't plant my tree on the other side of that fence because that's not mine. That's not my property. I can only plant that tree on this side of the fence. Got the idea so far? So boundaries. Boundaries, for instance, people have the invisible fence for their pets. So boundaries says to the pets, hey, you can't go beyond this particular space. Boundaries can protect. Right? Because if the fence is there, the gate is closed, then things from outside can't come in and cause harm. Or decreases the chances that they come to cause harm. So with all that in mind then, boundaries for us, boundaries say that, hey, I'm going to place a boundary on, and we can pick some things. Okay, I'm going to place some boundaries on my time. All right, so if you are in a particular profession, if you work in a particular space, if you're in charge of a particular thing, then a boundary can be, for instance, let's choose, say you're doing a newsletter, and the newsletter comes out on Thursday. A boundary can be, hey, if you want to be part of the newsletter, you have to get me your article, get me your contribution, get me your picture, get me your advertisement. You've got to get it to me on Monday so that I can do what I need to do so I can put the newsletter out on Thursday. That is a boundary. A boundary says that I don't go to a particular place. I don't eat a particular food. I don't drink alcohol. I don't, whatever it is that you don't do. And so with your friends, they know that, hey, when we go out or when we do this or when we do whatever, then one of the boundaries is that Dwayne is not going to drink alcohol. And we shouldn't push him to drink alcohol. One of the boundaries says that I have a date night with my wife, with my husband, on a particular night. And anyone who asks me to do something on that night at that time, I say no. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to go process it. I don't have to ask my wife or my husband, because the boundary says that, hey, that's what we do. So you get the idea? So boundaries. So you have to set boundaries. You got to begin learning and thinking, what are my boundaries? Because here's an interesting thing. The boundaries that you have really kind of define who you are. Wow, that's a good one. I got to write that down. The boundaries that you have help to define who you are. Because sometimes people are proclaiming, this is what I do, this is what I do, this is what I am. Well, people look at you and they see your boundaries and say, okay, well, he says one thing, but here's something else. So boundaries, you got to understand, you got to set boundaries. Next, you've got to prioritize tasks. Prioritize tasks. Now, this is an interesting one because everything on my list is important. Right? So everything that I've got to do is priority. But I only have a certain amount of time to do it. And if we're not careful, we allow the urgent to overshadow the important. So we do all the urgent things, but the important things don't get done. We talk about the business, but we don't talk about our relationship. We take care of everybody else, but our health suffers. Right? So we've got to prioritize tasks. So there are things in your list. There are things on your list that are going to, they're important, right? You got 5-10 things. And you say, well, I got to do all 10. Well, it may not be possible to do all 10. So what are the most important things? And right here again, right, we can do an entire show about how to prioritize. In fact, as I'm looking at this list, we may go back and do a show on each of those. How do we prioritize? How do we come up with the things that I'm going to do today? How am I going to come up with the things that I'm going to do tomorrow? Because what we end up doing is we end up trying, those 10 things. What we do is we flip from one to the next all throughout the day. And then we come back to the first one and we go through the 10 again. And we do a little bit on each one. And by the end of the day, none of them have been done. We've done a little bit on all. And that's not what we want to do. We want to make sure that on that list, we are completing things, we're checking them off, and we're taking them off the list. So how do we live from the center? That's what we're talking about, right? We got to understand mindfulness. We've got to set boundaries. We've got to prioritize tasks. And then we've got to develop healthy routines. Develop, I'm going to say it, healthy routines. Wow. What does that mean? There are things that we do in our lives that are not healthy. We engage in behaviors that are not healthy. Whether it's some substance or not sleeping well or eating certain foods, right? And I'm guilty. I'll put my hand up. Right? So we've got to begin developing healthy routines. So there are things that that don't serve you well, behaviors that you have, let's start there, that we still do. So how do we go about living from the center? We've got to look at those and say, okay, I've got to work. I'm going to say we, but I have to work on minimizing those and developing other routines. So I've got to get those out of my wheelhouse and begin putting new things in my wheelhouse. That's the old idea of neuroplasticity that we talked about in one of our shows. Neuroplasticity, the ability that we have as humans to develop new connections with our synapses so that we build new behaviors. So developing healthy routines. Now, so that's kind of an overview, right, of healthy routines. Now let's delve down into that a little bit. So what is a healthy routine that we need to have? We need to develop a daily routine that allows us to get good sleep. And notice I use the word good. So in that word good, all the things that you know about sleep. Restful, restorative sleep that has the appropriate duration. People say, well, I can get by on 4 hours of sleep. Maybe you can get by on 4 hours of sleep, but that is not what we're talking about. We're not talking about getting by. We're talking about sleep that is restorative that's restful, that's deep, because it's during sleep that our bodies rejuvenate. It's during sleep that our bodies build certain hormones. It's during sleep that we get the things that happen to us during the day begin to assimilate in our minds. And we're able, have you ever gone to sleep and you are fussing about something, some idea, something that you're working on that you just couldn't get, and you go to sleep and you wake up and boom, there's the answer. Yeah. Happens all the time. So restful sleep. So that's one routine. Do you have a daily routine for health? Do you have a workout that you do? My wife and I, we go on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, unless something happens, right? We go walking. I've got to incorporate some more days in my walking, or at least walk by the office. Do you have a way of building yourself up? Do you have mantras that you listen to? Do you have podcasts that you listen to? Do you have motivational music? Do you have motivational speeches? Is there something that defines what you do during the day to begin living from the center? What routines are you developing? Right? Healthy routines. And when we say healthy routines, not just health, but all the routines in your life that are healthy for you. Okay? So when I say health, people are thinking, oh, we're only talking about food and exercise and so forth. No, we're talking about all the things that you do. Do you have a system that automates the things that you do continually? The things you do all the time? Or each time, are you just reinventing the wheel? That's a healthy routine that you can define and develop. Right? So once again, we're talking about living from the center, So understand mindfulness, set boundaries, prioritize your task, develop healthy routines, and embrace flexibility. Embrace flexibility. What does flexibility say? Flexibility says that I am not as rigid as I think I am, or I am able to move. I'm able to change. I'm able to adapt. Things that are too rigid, what happens is they break. But when you're flexible, right? Think about a storm. Sometimes there are these big trees that are uprooted. And then there are these little saplings that are still standing because they were flexible. Flexibility is the ability to move, right? Let me see. I got a little thing here that I did. Let me see if I can pull it over. Flexibility is the ability to move, right? So here's my little guy. Hopefully he comes out, right? Flexible, right? So that's the whole idea of being able to move. Now he's dancing and he's just kind of, I wish I could do some of those things, right? But he's doing it physically, but we've got to be able to do that in our thought process. It may not go, it may not think, it may not happen the way we think it should happen, but we're flexible enough to change. Everybody's talking about this, about pivoting, right? The ability to move, change direction, right? Flexibility. All right. Thank you, LeMan. Thank you for dancing for us. Right? And then we've got to build a supportive network. We can't do it by ourselves. If we try to do it by ourselves, it, one, takes longer, and sometimes it does not succeed. I think what's the saying? If you want to go somewhere, go by yourself, but if you want to go a far way, go with someone else. There is benefit in having people around you that speak into you. Because when you get tired, if you're by yourself, the ability to get back in there, get back on the horse is so much lower if you're by yourself. But if you got people around you, people can hold you up. People can say, hey, come on, let's go. I tell the story of a friend of ours who, when I was having trouble in medical school, and I said, I don't know if I could do this. I was talking to him once, and he's now passed away. But I was talking to him, and I was telling him, I said, I don't know if I can do this. And he said to me, Dr. Wood, now notice I'm still in medical school. He said, Dr. Wood, you can do this. And he never again called me Dwayne. It was always Dr. Wood. That was his way of speaking success into me. And you need some people that are going to talk to you as though you've already succeeded. You need some people that are going to say, no, we're here. You can pause, you can sit, you can rest for a while, but we're not staying in this space. And you may even need some people to let you just lean on them while you all kind of go along. But you got to build a supportive network. So if we're going to live from the center, we got to be mindful. We got to be in this space. We can't allow our minds to take us elsewhere. Sometimes we have to feel the hurt that's right here. We can't ignore it. We can't go around it. We can't go under it. We've got to face it. We've got to be mindful. This is where I am. This is my circumstance. And now, okay, how am I going to get out of here? Remember, we were talking about being balanced. We got to set boundaries so that we know and other people know what our borders are. What are the things that we will do and the things that we won't do? We got to prioritize the task because everything is important. But what are the things that we have to get done now? And how do we go about doing that? So we've got to develop those skills. We got to have healthy routines for our health and for the things that we do in our lives. What are the things that we do on a daily basis that help us get through the day and get through the day successfully? We got to be flexible because if we're not flexible, we break. And we've got to build a support network around us because if we don't have that, then our chances of succeeding goes down because having those people around us is so very important. So we're talking about practical steps to live life from the center. Practical steps to live life from the center. Got to do it. Got to do it. Got to do it. So as we've talked about letting go, right? Going back to our previous series, letting go, the power of a positive mindset, developing, reinventing ourselves, designing a new us. The next things that we're going to be talking about, we're going to spend some time talking about how do we live from the center. How do we live from the center? And that's the new series that we're going to be doing. I want you to come on back. I want you to be here because as we move through these, now this has practical applications to all aspects of the things that we've talked about and the things that we will talk about on the channel. Definitely. Well, this is a perfect place for us to do our thought of the day. So let's go ahead and head over there right now. All right. And this goes right along with where we are in living from the center. So our thought of the day is this, that our journey is a continual exploration of ourselves and the world around us. Our journey is a continual exploration of ourselves and the world around us. It is so easy to think that once we have achieved something, some level of success, that we have arrived. And it's also easy to think that if we struggle to reach some success, that we are failures. But both of those cases, whether we achieve something or we struggle to achieve a goal, we're continually learning about us, continually learning about how we interact with the world, continually learning about how our mind works. So it doesn't matter where we are at this moment. We've got to be mindful. We've got to understand where we are. We've got to understand ourselves and how we interact. But we are continually learning about those things around us and the things that affect us and the things that make us go. What drives us? What gives us joy? What powers us? What things excite us? So learning about ourselves and learning how we interact with the world really is how we become successful. Because if we understand ourselves and we understand what the world has and we put the best of those together, then our success is here. Our success is reached. So our journey is a continual exploration of ourselves and the world around us. And that is our thought for today. All right. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being here. I am so excited that with all this stuff that we're doing, all this stuff that's happening on the channel, all of the learning, the growth, the empowerment, the encouragement, the taking charge. We are in the year 2023 and we are close to the end of July. After this, we've got 5 months. All the things that we plan to do at the beginning of the year, all the things that we started to do at the beginning of the year, all the things that may have fallen away, let's get back on it. Because we got 5 months, y'all. We got 5 months to go. Because this year is the year that we get unstuck. This year is the year that we are taking charge of our health. We're taking charge of our thoughts. We're taking charge of our relationships. We're taking charge of those things in our lives that help to push us forward, push us into success. Your definition of success may be different from mine. But whatever your definition is, here is the place right now where we get to dig in. We get to roll up our sleeves. We get to button down and we get to say, boom, come on, let's do it. Right? As we make this push to the end of 2023. I want to be part of your push. I want to be part of the excitement that you get when you reach that goal. I want to be part of your support team. And that's what I do here on the channel. All the things that I talk about, all of the topics that we do is with the intention of saying, hey, how do we go about doing this? And so my call to action, right? My challenge to you is this episode that we just did. This is a perfect place. If you've been languishing, if you've been struggling, if you have not known, how do I start? How do I go about? I feel like something is wrong, but I just don't know what it is. I feel like I want to do more, but I don't know how to begin. I feel like I'm stuck in a particular place, but I don't know how to get out of it. I'm hurting. I'm upset. I'm frustrated, right? I'm in pain. I feel like I'm depressed. I want to give up. This episode is a perfect place to begin thinking through the process of, okay, let's make a change. So this is one also that I encourage you to share with your family and with your friends. Let them know that this one is a very, very important one. And as I talk about with my clients, as I talk about with the people that are in our program, I tell them that right now, what I want you to do is I want you to pick a thing. I want you to pick a thing in your life where you say, hey, I have not been satisfied with where I am. And then decide that you're going to change that. Decide that you're going to change it. The decision itself is so, so, so important. Write it down. Circle it. And then write, what if I don't change that thing? If it stays exactly the way it is, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, what is going to be the state of my life? What is my mind going to be like? What is my behavior going to lead? What is it going to mean for my life if I don't change this? I want you to think about that thing, and don't just let it be an exercise. Oh, I just thought about it. I want you to write it down. If I don't change this, if I don't change my job, if I don't take that class, if I don't get that certification, if I don't start talking to my wife or my husband, if I don't reach out to my child that's estranged, what does that look like? And what does that mean for me down the road? And write that down. And then I want you to take that same thing. And if you do talk to your boss about getting a promotion, if you do change your job, if you do talk to your wife, if you do set up a date night, if you do reach out to that child or that mom or that cousin or that aunt or that brother that's estranged, and you guys begin working it out, what does that look like? What does that feel like? And I want you to remember that feeling. And allow it to help guide you. Allow it to help push you. Allow it to help you create the environment that you want in your life. Love it, love it, love it. Make sure also that you get over to Dwayne Wood MD. I'm going to pull that up here really quick. Dwayne Wood MD. Remember that I am always excited to be a part of your journey. Be a part of your journey. Let me get back over there and let's see. One of these. Here we go. Let's try that one. Yep, there we go. All right, so Dwayne Wood MD. Make sure you get over and you see our blog. So our blog, we're doing lots of different things there. Different topics that we're talking about that supplement the things that we do here on the show. If you have someone they don't do YouTube, right? And they're interested in our shows, we also have those out there on our podcast. It's called Do You Know with Dr. Dwayne Wood. Okay. Make sure you get out there and watch that. If you would like to have me work with you personally, I also have a coaching program, right? The coaching program allows you to access me for us to go through and specifically talk about your personal situation, right? How do we get you from where you are to a different place? How do we end that frustration that you feel? How do we help you decide what steps you need to take to move from where you are? How do I help you to deal with some of the health issues that you have? How do we help you if you're trying to transition from career to one career to another career, or in a particular area of your life? If you're interested in finances, how do we help you to begin saving, right? So all of those things are things that people struggle with on a daily basis, and things that I would love to be a part of helping you move through. So make sure you do that. And then always, I encourage you to get back to our YouTube channel and begin taking advantage of the many things that we have going on there. All right. So that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out with me. I will see you at the next episode of our show. This is Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here in the channel, I educate, I empower, I encourage you to take charge of your health, your life, avoid complications, go to the next level, create the life you've always wanted. Thank you. We'll see you next week. And I'm going to give you some music and get our little dancing guy coming out. Let's see if I can